This is the new Fortnite Chapter 4 map. 3 different biomes, 9 new POIs, with one drop spot that's better than the rest. Coral Castle. No, I'm just joking. Breakwater Bay, my home, my drop spot, D. In terms of loot, it basically has some of the worst of everything. The metal here is really bad. There's only 27 chests. There's 0 coolers. There's some of the lowest floor loot, only having 68. And one of the only redeeming qualities this spot has is that there's 3 outbound chests. One of the biggest downfalls of this drop spot is that it takes a long time to loot, but it's also at the edge of the map, which means you're gonna have to rotate really far in order to get into a max distance zone. The rotations are honestly one of the worst parts of this drop spot. While looting, you're constantly being tagged by the players up in the northeast. You're getting held by players who are landing straight to the east, even if it's the same team. And if you're trying to rotate down south, the players in the Citadel can also shoot you from every single way. Overall, not a great POI, and I don't know why I keep landing here. Lonely Labs, I'm going to put that above Breakwater Bay. Now, if you just look at the loot straight out, pretty horrific. 25 chests, 0 oathbound chests, some of the lowest ammo, the lowest floor loot, some rubbish environmental heals there as well. But one thing this place does have going really strong for it is, of course, the metal. Pretty much every material that's here is metal, so you can even just walk through loot whilst just swinging your pickaxe and get cap. And of course, the biggest problem that a lot of POIs have is that they don't have a lot of metal. I'm looking at you, every POI in this biome. Unfortunately, while you're looting, the teams that can land up to the north of you will easily sit and spray and tag you, and anyone can sit and hold you along this ridge here because you have to either build across, spray across. So the teams who land around here to the south can easily yet again be a complete pest to you on your rotates. Our first C tier is going to be Shattered Slabs. Now, I thought originally there was no metal here, around 600 to 700, but after doing another test, it seems to be roughly 950 to 1000 in this place. Now, that's good enough metal for one team. However, if this is contested, like we probably will see from the majority of POIs, this just is not going to be enough. And on top of this, it has the lowest amount of chests from any drop spot, and this really is not the best place to be. For home zones, it does have the advantage of having 2 large hills to the east of it, which will be able to spray a bunch of the players who are rotating in that way. But similarly, at the same time, because this is a very odd POI, players can kind of just set up all the way around these positions if they get there early enough and farm you for surge while you're looting. Another one in C tier I'm going to put above is actually going to be the Citadel. Now, let me get it above. Come on, there we go. Thank you. Now, I really wanted to like this POI because it's very similar to Polar Peak that I loved all the way back in Chapter 1. But unfortunately, I think there's like 300 metal in this entire POI. Now, it has a lot going for it in terms of its positioning and the height that it is. Of course, if you're sitting on top of this on a west zone, you have such good vision across the majority of the entire west side of the map. So for Surge, this is super strong. And one of the things it does have going for it is it has the most oathbound chests. So it has 5 total, which, as you know, can give you shockwave hammers and also the Excalibur. So it can give you the most powerful weapons. So the trade-off of landing here is, yes, you're going to get good loot, and you're going to get the best storm surge positioning on the west side of the map. However, you ain't getting any metal. Above that, our first B tier, I really kind of want to put this in C. Yeah, I'm putting it in C tier. Still kind of ass. Anvil Square. Now, this in terms of straight loot is very good. It has 53 chests, which is tied the second most. It has 2 oathbound chests, but biggest thing it has going for it is it's the mid-map POI. So it's the POI that is currently the closest to the center of the map. There is absolutely enough loot for 2 teams to fight here over, but again, it's going to come down to the metal after that. The alternative title to this video could quite easily just be Reese talks about metal for 10 plus minutes, but it's one of the most important parts when you're looking at a drop spot. Continuing the talk of metal, our first B tier, and I think maybe our only B tier drop spot, is going to be Frenzy Fields. Now, when I looked at this, I thought this was probably one of, if not the worst POI. I put this at the bottom, like this was going in stinky tier. Now, look at the stats. 36 chests, 0 oathbound chests, the lowest ammo being 15, 85 floor loot, middling, with some of the worst environmental heals being 60, 0 coolers, 3 safes, and 70 containers total. Now, essentially the worst stats, and I think literally the worst stats in terms of loot out of all of the POIs outside of Lonely Labs. However, what I did not realize is the materials here are very, very good. One of the buildings alone in the northwest has 870 metal, which is almost enough to get completely capped for the both duos. There's also an excess of brick around, which after they're buffed in the next update is going to be really good. But I do think this POI will be really bad if you're fighting off spawn. And right now it's Kemin City and who are landing there. So fingers crossed they can keep this uncontested for the entire season. All right, faulty splits. I mean, there's no real question. It's not going here. It's going in S tier. And you'd think just looking at the loot alone, it has the best chest, best ammo, best coolers, best overall containers. You'd say, surely this is the best POI. On paper, yes, I completely agree with you. But the big issue is I see this being like Condo Canyon of last season, where there was so much loot, but it's spread over such a large area that this attracts some of the best teams in the region. They all fight for it, and then no one does good. These kind of fights also attract teams that are nearby to third party. And as always, my biggest concern with Faulty is, I mean, all of the teams who land down basically in this south area will rotate in here. They almost have to go past, so they're going to try and third party the fight that's going to be happening in there because there's going to be so many teams. Similarly, if they pull a zone that comes up to this northeast side, the Frenzy Fields team will know there's going to be a bunch of teams fighting in here, rotate past, get some easy tags and some basically third party potential on there too. If there's a south zone, you're always going to see this team push down, maybe this team over here push across as well to get either metal if they need it or just third party the fight. So in terms of Faulty splits, there are so many different teams who can rotate past here, just depending on whatever the zone is. Now, Brutal Bastion. Ooh, is it going to go above? Is it going to go below? I am going to put it below. Now, less loot overall, but it does have a lot of natural map mobility around it, which is something that's lacking currently in competitive. There's 3 launch pads in this area. There's also the slipstreams that are around there too. And originally I thought there was no metal here, but there is tons along these little small rails for whatever reason. So there you go. But one of the reasons that I'm putting this up so high is that I am betting that reality augments are going to be really, really strong this season. There's already a bunch of very powerful ones, and being able to get the one that you want is really important. And the fact that there's 8 safes in this drop spot is massive. Each of these gives you 75 gold bars, and it costs 100 to re-roll your reality augment. So essentially, the more gold bars you have, the more chance you have of getting better reality augments earlier. And this will become more important because I'm sure there'll be more reality augments added later on in the season, and this will essentially muddy up the loot pool of what's available and give you less chance to get the ones that you actually want. So the more gold, the better. And the last one, Slappy Shores, that's going right at the top. Now you can basically assume this is a slurpy swamp, but good, because it actually has loot. It has 53 chests total, which is the second highest, tied with Anvil Square. Of course, Faulty Splits having 70. Also has the highest amount of environmental heals, being 610. There's slap barrels and there's slurp barrels. There's also a slurp truck in this area as well. So tons of heals. This means, of course, you could save your chug splashes, your minis, your bigs for later on in the game. But most importantly, the amount of metal that is in this POI is unbelievable. There's a bridge in the center. There's a ton of containers underneath. There's a gas station up in the northwest as well. A lot of the walls of the factory at the south are also made of metal. From the response I got on social media, I can tell this is some of your guys' favorite drop spot as well. Outside of Venice, he's landing at definitely different shores from me. So let me know which one you think is the best, not necessarily where you're landing. Of course, like the video and subscribe. Put some notifications on, I never ask. Catch you later, peace.